Okay, so this is module 3, utilizing exceptions. For this project, I was to create a program that would be able to read a user inputted username and email as well. And for the username and email, I was to have guidelines that the username and email must contain as well. And if it didn't contain both of those rules, then I should display an error message letting them know what was wrong and the requirements that they would need. So I first began by creating my login verify exception class. So as you can see, public class login verify exception, and it extends exception. I didn't actually have to create this exception class since it actually already exists within the standard library for Java. So that's why there isn't an actual exception class up here. Um, so it will also display the message if the program was to crash right here. So pretty much instead of if the user inputted something, the terminal will usually crash, but instead it should display this message right here and letting them know why what they input is wrong. Um, so going on to that actual part right here. So pretty much this class is used to represent a valid username and an email. So once again, public class login verify. And this right here stores the actual values after it has passed the validation. Final was utilized so that once the object, which is a successful username and email, so pretty much we utilize final because if it's valid, it will stay valid and it can't be later modified and potentially violate the rules that was created. So that's why the final was utilized right here. And then validating the inputs and assigning. If the rule fails, throw the explanatory message. So we created this section right here. So validate username, validate email, and then also assigning it as well. So we have our getters right here. And then we have our constructor for both username and email validation as well. So the string u is pretty much just a placeholder within this within the actual argument. So and just to determine if everything is working correctly. So if u is null or which is right here, u is blank. So pretty much what this is saying that if the user didn't input anything at all, so null, or if they skip that part, which is the null portion, and if it's blank, so if they was to just to put spaces or no actual characters, then this line will actually show up. And then what would be thrown is what was once utilized here. This will actually be now thrown to say, please enter username as it is empty. So that was one of the rules that was created. Username also must be greater than 15 characters as well. So if the username inputted doesn't isn't at least 15 characters, then this message would then be displayed username too short and it must be a minimum of 15 characters. And if this is also going to be used, so a exclamation point somewhere within the username. So if the user did not use this for their username, then this message would be displayed right here. And going on to the actual email rules, what I decided was it must have an @ symbol and it must end with .edu. So kind of the same way up here, E was just used as a placeholder within the arguments to validate, well, within the method to validate. So if it's null or blank, once again, this message will be displayed. Please enter email as it is empty. If it does not have an @ sign, then an email must contain an @ will be displayed. And same thing for if it doesn't have .edu at the end, then it must this message will display it must end with edu. And this right here is just the final return that will be displayed. So it will show their username and what they inputted, as well as the email that and then the email that they displayed right here. And then pretty much this is the exception class or the exception demo. So pretty much the purpose of this is to display the rules for both the username and the email to also collect 4 valid username and email pairs. So the object, it should collect 4 of them. And if the user was to break the rules for either the email or the username, then the throw message must be displayed. So that's pretty much what we have right here. So after creating a public static void, we then have a final int size of 4. So that's displaying how many valid entries that need to be displayed within the array. And this portion right here is where the actual valid objects will be stored as well. So for this section right here, this is pretty much just going to be the first things that are displayed. So it's going to let the user know the rules that are needed. So as you can see, they have username rules right here. And then you also have, it must be at least 15 characters and it must contain a exclamation point, and then it will end the line right here. And then the same thing for the email rules as well. Must contain an @ symbol and must end with a .edu. And right here is the actual try method to enclose a section of code that might potentially throw or cause the actual exception. So pretty much what this is going to do, as you can see right here, the outer loop is pretty much going to go until there are 4 valid entries. So for this section right here, this is going to keep being ran until there are actual 4 entries. But also within that loop, the outer loop, there's also considered the inner loop. So for this portion, this is just going to keep running until there's actual valid inputs. So pretty much it's like one big bubble. So the outer bubble is pretty much just making sure that there are 4 actual entries, 4 valid objects, which once again is pretty much right here. And then the inner one is just to make sure it's going to keep running until there's actual valid inputs that's being displayed. And yeah, so that's pretty much what that portion pretty much is for. And this is going to actually, this is used to validate the inside constructor. So making sure that it throws on any rule failure within the user input. And as you can see, the message of username was entered with correct requirements. Then this portion in the break is just used to move on to the next portion within the code. And then this is right here. This is to show why it was failed and to let them know that the rules were already shown within the beginning in case the user didn't already see that. And then this will also be displayed, this one right here, if the user inputted something that wasn't valid. And then right here, this is going to be displayed at the very end once all the once the array has reached 4 valid objects. So if we run it, oh, okay. Let's go over. Okay, so as you can see, just how it was displayed right here. You have your username rule, so it's letting you know it must have at least 15 characters and it must contain an exclamation point. And the same thing for the email rules, it must contain an @ symbol and it must also end with .edu. So for the beginning one, I'm just going to display something that's wrong. So let's say goats are, and then for the email, I'm gonna just type so pretty much as you can see, the username was determined to be too short and it must be a minimum of 15 characters, and it says to please try again, and that was displayed here. So for this second time, I'm gonna actually make sure that it's goats are nice. And I'm trying to make sure I get to 15. Okay, and then enter email. Okay, so this time around, it's actually showing that the username was valid since it did pass the 15 character limit, but it actually didn't have the exclamation point. So that time it wasn't actually read as valid. So this time, okay, enter name. Let me see. Okay, so as you can see, this time the username was valid for both. So this time the email is the one that was missing. So instead of showing the username, what was wrong within the username, it actually showed the email, and it must contain an @ symbol. So uh, oops. Oh, I forgot. Okay, okay. Uh, Actually, I'm gonna just yeah, so I can just show this how it works. Okay, so this time, once again, the email they didn't have the edu at the end, so this time I'm gonna just actually make sure I put it. Okay, so right here it actually displays that it was accepted. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, okay, so it actually says that it was accepted. So the username was displayed here, and then the actual email right there. So then I'm gonna just run through these to show the final version. At UK, not be enough. At .edu, then okay. So then once there are 4 valid objects, it's then going to display the login verify right here. So as you can see, first it's going to display the username. Actually, no, this was in the toString. Okay, so as you can see right here, login verify, username, and then it's going to display each of the usernames that was actually validated as valid, and then it's going to also display the email as well. And yeah, so this is pretty much the end. And then once it has finished, then it once it the 4 objects was met, then the loops ended and it stopped running. So this is how my project ended up working and how it turned out.